Thank you very much, Senator Fian. I now move on to Senator O'Donnell. You have 8 minutes. Thank you.
Carla agus Gormaigad Ira as a Valen, Shilgosi Harvey Tawak agus Jarfak go to ensure a new Hon Kursi Ohui a play, which Shingar Cardoons when you fashion a Yanunis Maniga. Minister, I want to take the opportunity to thank you for being with us here today to specifically, obviously, make statements and comment on the current political developments in the North. I think that's a welcome move, and I think it's maybe some, Minister, that you should consider doing more of in this House, given the climate that we are entering at the minute, and obviously all of the acute attention that is being paid by both Houses and indeed by broader society across Ireland, hoping for a swift and positive and resolute outcome to the current difficulties being faced. Minister, I just want to refer to a number of matters that you raised in your own statement. First of all, you outlined your engagement with the British Secretary of State, James Brokenshire. And I wonder just if you could refer in your closing remarks to some of the engagement that you may have had. Was the British Secretary of State aware of the rocks that the institutions were facing into and in danger of hitting? Were you articulating the concerns of the broader nationalist, Republican and indeed other communities in the North who have reached their tether when it comes to the disrespect being shown by the DUP, not just to elements and minorities within our society in the North, but also to the very core components, as you eloquently outlined, of the Good Friday Agreement and subsequent agreements? You also make reference, Minister, and I think we need to choose our language very carefully, because we all have been around corners before and we all know the sensitivities involved in various crises when they manifest before us. But you make reference to both governments pursued all appropriate avenues to encourage the executive parties to find a way beyond their difficulties. However, an agreement could not be found. That almost implies that there was a broad range of problems here. So I think it's important to set all of this within its context. In terms of alleged financial corruption around RHI and the absolute scandal involved, and that scandal is emerging every day. More and more allegations are coming to the fore and coming to light almost daily since this first found its way onto the media. So you have in the climate and the environment of Tory austerity being driven from London, where the executive has had a cut initially of £4 billion from its block grant. You now have the potential for £500 million, £500 million almost being lost to the public purse. £500 million that could be better spent in our schools, our hospitals, our infrastructure. Indeed, preparing for the negative aspects of Brexit, as have been outlined by other speakers. So you have that. I don't know what other government or arrangement would simply allow for that to happen and not take the, I think, honourable and noble steps that Martin McGuinness took in order to bring that to a conclusion. Because, as you'll know, Minister, Martin McGuinness, both privately initially and indeed publicly subsequently, offered the DUP the opportunity for Arlene Foster to step aside and for an investigation to be carried out into the RHI scandal. That advice wasn't taken up on, and now we are where we are, Minister. It also sits very firmly in the context of a failure to deliver an Irish Language Act. Regular disrespect and disregard to the Irish-speaking population and those who have a gra for Irish language, or indeed simply anyone who has an Irish sense of identity or sees their place within the Irish nation. A regular occurrence through the media of continuous base bigotry and hostility and sectarianism to anyone who differs from a DUP stereotype. You also have the context of, for example, your counterpart in the British administration, James Brokenshire, claiming jurisdiction over the entirety of Lough Foyle. You have a failure to implement a Bill of Rights being blocked by the DUP. You have marriage equality being blocked by the DUP through a misuse of the petition of concern mechanism in the institutions, which, as you know, Minister, was negotiated as a protection And I think that's probably the most horrible irony in that particular circumstance, that a mechanism that was there to guarantee defence and protection for minorities is actually being regularly and flagrantly abused and misused by the DUP to hinder progress, to hinder rights, to hinder equality, to hinder respect for all of our communities. And sometimes I think we need to just call a spade a spade. Sometimes if there is an identifiable problem with something, whether it's a political institution or elsewhere, we need to call a spade and say that is the problem. That is what's holding us back. Because I will stand in this chamber, I will stand anywhere, and I will defend the record of integrity and leadership shown by Martin McGuinness over 10 years. I think every one of us in political life have it easy when it comes to what Martin McGuinness was asked to do over the last 10 years in terms of someone with a progressive mind, with a progressive ideology in politics, who wants to see this country and indeed our community move forward. So let's shine a light on to where this problem actually lies. You say too, Minister, that you're encouraging the speedy resumption of the institutions. I think that's hopeful. I think that's positive. I think that's the right approach. But, Minister, I would ask and I would wonder if you would be of the same view, given everything that has been outlined, the scandal around RHI, the alleged financial corruption, but the overt and clear corruption of the principles of the Good Friday Agreement, which I think are indisputable, they are undeniable. The Good Friday Agreement and its protections, its guarantees, its institutions, its structures have been warped, are in danger of further warping as a result of DUP manipulation and opposition to it. So while we would all love to see a speedy resolution of the institutions, and of course this election will give people the opportunity to decide what kind of institutions they want. Do they want a progressive, thoughtful focus on the institutions, or do they want to return to corruption? Do they want to return to sectarianism? Do they want to return to the misuse of the petition of concern? Do they want to return to the type of politics that says we don't trust Muslims to go to the shop for us? Do they want to return to the type of politics where we say curry my yoghurt and abuse the Irish language, where we tell our LGBT citizens that they don't have the same rights and entitlements to marry and to express their love in the same way that everyone else? Or do we want something different? Because we could ask for a speedy resolution, we could pat ourselves on the back if we get that, but I think what this government needs to say clearly is to join with the rest of not just the Nationalist and Republican constituency in the north, but indeed many from within the Unionist constituency who are saying there can be no return to the status quo. There can be no return to what prevailed in the past. There needs to be a fundamental change. We certainly have laid out our stall from a Sinn Féin perspective under our new leader, Michelle O'Neill, and I thank members for their wishes to both Michelle and indeed Martin McGuinness. But I think the government needs to be very, very clear, and indeed the British government need to step up to the mark and send a very, very clear message that what passed, despite the best efforts from those of us who tried to sustain them, who tried to make them work, who did our very best and put in a huge amount of valiant effort, not least embodied by Martin McGuinness over recent years. But any resolution, and I'll finish on this, I'll finish on this, any resumption of the institutions has to be to the word, to the letter and to the spirit of the Good Friday and subsequent agreements. And we, and indeed this Irish Government, will accept no less than that because, as you know well, Minister, the people, both North and South, endorsed democratically through an overwhelming mandate that was the structures that they wanted to see. Not conditional, not half-baked, not half-cocked, but the Good Friday and subsequent agreements, hard fought for, hard won in their entirety.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Francis Black, you have 8 minutes.